Hello everyone, today I'd like to show you how to use my package called Smart Rooms, and let's get right into it. So first of all, what you want to do is to add the Smart Rooms package into your project, and then you import it. Now it does have some dependencies, so you want to go ahead and just accept it, and it will install it into your projects under your plugins folder. Now if you don't have a plugins folder, now you have it, and so here it is. So that's the Smart Rooms, and let's go ahead and just check it out. What does it do? So as we open the sample scene, we can take a look at this level that has been generated. Now, as most of my packages, you can actually generate it in the editor mode, and you don't really need to play. Now, this does allow you to do faster iterations, and just generally is a little bit nicer to work with. So you can already preview how it's going to look like. It is not perfect. As you can see, the foliage, these sort of nice little flowers, are only generated on part of the level, and that's because the Unity pooling system just really does not like to work in edit mode, at least not that easily, so it will look slightly different when we actually go to play. The second thing is that the shader that's being used here, well, sorry, not the shader actually does work. What doesn't work is that these tiles do not have corners, and so I've decided not to do that, because then it would be way slower in the editor. So this way you actually get way faster iteration in the editor, and then when you want to play it, when you want to see how it actually looks like, you can obviously go to the play mode. Now, as you can see, I have a black screen. That's because I've imported this as a URP package. As a package into my URP project, and so there's like a little bit of a work that you have to do. When you have this UI camera, in URP it functions differently. So instead of using a single number which determines how things are stacked on top of each other, in URP you actually have to define a camera type to be overlay. And when you do that, you also have to go to the main camera and set it as an overlay camera. So it's just like one little extra step that you need to do that's different from the pre-built pipeline. But once you do that, then it will work. So you can see, we have a level. We actually have this like very basic controller that you can use, and it will behave sort of like Spelunky. And I can run around. If I could jump this high, I could even move this block. What I can do is, since I'm in the editor, I can obviously cheat myself to be a little bit more up. And yeah, then you can see, like, you can actually push these blocks. And that's a nice demo, but how do you actually use it? So now we'll jump into explanation of, first of all, how it works. And second of all, how you can use it. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. So the most important part of the project is this level generator. That's really what's generating this level itself. Now it does have actually two other dependencies. One is the background generator, which is generating this background. I can move it away, and you'll see that it doesn't look as good without it. And the thing is that if you change the level size, this background has to also scale and adapt, and that's actually the reason why it does exist, right? So I'm gonna showcase how it works. So let's get first started with the level generation system, and we're gonna start off by just sort of segmenting it out. So we're gonna say we're gonna have a level that has 4 tiles vertically and 4 times horizontally. One thing that you can already notice is that they don't necessarily have to be the same height and width. That's actually a feature, not a bug. And that's really important because your levels are generally, at least if you're using a Spelunky controller, they would be more traversable in the horizontal direction, and that's why they're actually wider than they are taller. Because it is really hard to go up in Spelunky style game. That's why I designed this way. So now, how do we actually generate a level? So I'm gonna talk about how how most games are going to be made, but technically there is a very simple setting that allows you to generate in any direction. I'll just showcase it really quickly. So when you have this build mode direction, there's 4 different directions you could build from. So top to bottom, bottom up, left to right, and right to left. So I'll show what that means. So technically your level could be traversable, you know, left to right. It could obviously also be traversable, let me actually use this one. So it could be also traversable from right to left. It could be traversable from bottom to up. But the one that I'm going to be talking about, and the one that Spelunky uses, is when you go from top to bottom. So now how do we actually generate this, right? Because like there could be a lot of different paths to get from the top to bottom. And really what we're talking about in principle is that you have this starting tile and you have this end tile, right? And technically you could put this at any of the last layers as a, well, let me actually do the other way. So the green is the starting tile and the end is the red tile. And so you really want to figure out how to get from the starting tile all the way to the red tile. So I can draw one path that could be taken, and it could be something like that. Now obviously it could also be just like that, and it could be also like this. So it really doesn't matter how we're gonna get there. The only thing that I would say is probably better is that like the longer the path is, the more interesting it is. Although if it is really the longest path possible, that's also quite boring. So I think you really want to sort of get to the middle point where you're not taking the shortest path, but you're also not taking the longest path. So something really in the middle is just going to be the most fun and feel the most natural. So, so one thing that I kind of lied about is that we actually don't want to know where the end is right now. It would actually be possible to do that, but I just find it a little bit constraining. So the level generation works by defining a beginning, obviously. And then you need to create a path. And so the level generator is really now has like 2 choices where to go, right? So it can go right or it can go down. Now in the current implementation, it just chooses randomly which one it takes. And this actually does produce a very nice pattern, because, well, let me just show you. Okay, so now you have 2 choices. You can go right or you can go down. Then again, you can go down or you can go right, or you can go down and you can go right. So now if you think about it, this is really has like a 50% chance that you can end up here, and you have a 50% chance that you can end up here. But now that we sort of expand it, now you only have 25% chance you're going to end up there, and 25% chance you're going to end up here. But you actually have, again, like 50% chance you're going to be here. And this sort of goes on and on. And the distribution that you're really going to get is sort of a like Pascal triangle. Like the edges are really low probability. I guess this is 12.5%, right? And then this would be, I suppose this would be average of like 25 and 50, or let me think about it. This would be, I mean, getting here from there is like 25, and here it's 12.5, so that's about 37.5, right? And then again, this would be then 37.5, and then this would be 12.5%. So what is our goal here? So our goal is to get to the last layer. In this case, it would be the bottom one. So really anything in this layer is sort of the final layer that we could end up in. And then what are percentage chances that we're going to end up here, 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 or here? And what are like the most probable paths? And so I think you already can see that the most probable path will be something like either this, or it could be something like that, you know, but you can see that there's general trend, and I'm just going to draw over it. The general trend is really like going in this direction, and that's what we want. This basically makes sure that this start point doesn't have a very either long path to the exit, which would be going all the way here and then down, but also it doesn't have like a obvious short path that it could take, because you can see this is like 12.5%. Now I'm going to go a little bit back and I'm going to explain something really quickly. So again, with these percentages, it seems like I've made a spectacle triangle and it all works and it's all perfect, but it was technically a lie. Don't tell anybody, but it's not true, because what I fail to consider is that you could go here, which again, like these two actually are correct. These are 50-50, but after that it gets a little bit more complicated. Actually, this one is not even 50-50, but this one is truly like well, I guess at this point the decision was 50-50, but then here it's actually not true, because here you have 3 choices and I sort of failed to encapsulate that. So here you're actually not going here with 12.5, sort of 25% chance. This is not 25, sorry, I lied. This is actually like 50 divided by 3, which I guess would be something like 17.7, if I'm not mistaken. Because what I failed to encapsulate is that you can actually go back here, right? So let me delete a bunch of these things, sort of go back and sort of explain what could happen. Right, so here it really was a 50-50 chance to end up here, right? Like there is a 50% chance I'm going to go through this tile. That is true. But here it's actually 50% plus whatever this path is, plus whatever this path is, plus whatever this path is, whatever, yeah, I suppose that those are all of the paths that I could have taken, really. And so here again, here it's not really just combination of these two, but it's also a combination of this. It's also a combination of that. And the further down we go, like here, there is so many ways you can get in there. It's almost like quantum mechanics, where you're counting all of the possible trajectories that a particle could have taken and summing them up to get some sort of a final trajectory. So calculating these percentages is pretty difficult. I suppose I could build a program to actually visualize it, but I don't think it's that important. What we're really seeing here, though, even from the small example, is that the generator will try to go in some sort of this direction, like try to go a little bit here, but just on random chance, it could actually take different directions. So again, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna start here and we're gonna start generating. So let's go one by one and let's start generating. So now we are here and we have a second tile. Maybe I could make it actually yellow. Okay, so let's make it like that, and let's fill it with some beautiful yellow. Cool. So now we have a tile here, and then maybe we're just gonna go and I'm gonna make it the level like this, and just based on random chance, it could end up looking like this. Okay, so we went all the way down here and we're now down here on the bottom. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that these connections are actually real connections. So my algorithm is actually considering if this is actually traversable. How that works I will get into later, but the simplest thing that I can just talk about is that if you have a room tile which has a sort of gap here, let's say this is a wall, right? And what can you put here? Like that's really the question. So what we can put here is maybe like a room tile that's looking like that. Okay, so yep. So now you can see like we need to match up the air together. So we're really just like trying to match the air tiles together so that we always have like a traversable path here. Okay. So yeah, so we're just generating this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. And as we're sort of done, we're in the final layer. So now at the final layer, there is there's like a chance that we might actually be at the exit. So the way I've designed it is that anytime you enter a final layer, you roll a die. You roll a die, and this is actually defined in the level generator itself. I chose not to put it in the style of the level, but actually the level generator itself is defining that. And it's telling you that there is a 25% chance that anytime we enter a tile on the last layer, we will just stop and put a final room in there. So now let's say we're here, and there's a 25% chance, and it actually failed, okay? So we actually are not stopping here, and we go to the next thing. So that's really the only place where we can go, because you can only go down or to the side. And so since we are all the way down, we can only go to the side. So now if we actually do roll the chance, and now we say this is the end tile, then the level generator will look at what end tiles it can place, and it will replace this, and I'm just going to do it like that. It will replace it with an end tile. Actually, we defined it as being red, so let's do it as red. Cool. So now this is the end. Now, if you're wondering what would happen if we get very unlucky, then the level generator would actually be very smart, I guess, or not that smart, but it would just go all the way to the end, and then for the last tile it would be forced to actually put the end there, because it doesn't have any other choice. Like, it can go down, it can go to the side anymore. It's really the end where it can go. So now that we are at the end, what do we do with all of this blank space? So we have a lot of blank space. So there's two things that we could do with it. So first of all, we could take our these yellow tiles, which are sort of like the middle tiles, or the rooms that live between start and exit, and we could just randomly place a bunch of these rooms here. Let me just do it like that, and so we just like fill it up, right? Now, it's not totally mandatory to actually have a connection between these. This can be like an extra bonus feature, if you will, but there's technically no reason you need to be accessing these. So we could put something special in there, or they could just look like mess, and we could maybe only have this one connected, and maybe this one is connected like that, and maybe this one is connected like this. But all the other ones, like let's say this one, is completely disconnected from everything, and this one as well. So in Spelunky, what you could do is you could maybe, let me just draw it. So maybe this looks like that. But this tile actually has the entrance down here. And so you sort of cannot, as you can see, like you cannot actually get in there, because it's completely like, here you want to go there, but here you want to go here. And so it's like that, and then therefore you cannot actually go in this room. So what you could do in like Spelunky is you could like create a bomb and then like put it here, and then it would explode, right? And sort of by exploding, you could make actually a hole in here, and now you can actually walk in this room, and maybe there's a chest and you're gonna collect that chest. So that's all good and dandy, and we could definitely do this, but that sort of leaves out a lot of nice features that we could put in these rooms, because let's say you want really the player to go here, and you really want to interact with your NPC that's in this like special room. Like, let's say you want to put a special room here so that the player can sort of sidetrack from their main path and go to this special room and talk to this NPC. So if you did this just with the sort of standard rooms as these, so first of all, this NPC room now could be actually spawned here or here, which maybe is not what you want. Not only that, but actually like it could end up here, and then it's not completely connected at all. So for that, we have a different kind of room. Let's make it like this sort of a orange color. And this orange color is actually a so this orange color is like a special type of room, and I'm gonna go back, just delete these. And these orange rooms are called special rooms because they are special, and they have this unique feature that they don't live on the main path, and yet we do enforce that they are connected to the path itself. So we do that by basically taking each of these special rooms, and we try to place it around the level. So we try to put it here and then check, does this actually have a connection? Now let's try to sort of visualize that, how that would look. So maybe we have a wall here and an entrance there. right? So we have actually here an entrance, but this orange room maybe doesn't have an entrance there. So maybe it's like this, all right? So it has like that. And so that it's really looking for an entrance here, and this one is looking for an entrance there. And so they don't actually combine, and so you cannot actually traverse it from the main path. And that's a problem. So we cannot actually put the orange room here. But what we could try is to maybe put it here, and when you put it down on, you know, sort of one block below or one tile below, it might actually work. And the fun thing is that we can try for every single spot. And I'm gonna draw like what does it mean. So let's say we again go here, and there is this, but this time I don't know how I drew it before, but let's say we do it like that. Okay, cool. And this time actually it works out, and you can go into this special room and talk to the NPC. So the NPC might be like here. Okay, so the NPC is like standing here, and he's waving at you, and he wants to meet you. Okay, cool. Awesome. There might be actually a gap, sort of. Why not? Now these orange rooms can come in two sizes. So for one size is that it's just a single room, but we can actually make a special type of special room. And the special room actually can extend into two of these tiles, but it has only one requirement, and that maybe is like the bottom one. I'll make sure start a little bit back. So we could define a room that is a special room, and it has to be connected on its placement, but then it also requires that there is one space below which is empty, let's say here, and then it has like sort of a partner or a second room that it sort of connects to. And you can imagine that this special room is now actually two rooms in one. But the requirement for connection to the main path is only done on one of them. So this is actually something that's used heavily in Spelunky, because you might have a let me draw it. So maybe you would have a nice connection here, but here you have completely blocked off wall, right? And so with this special room, sorry, I need to do a circle, yes. So with this special room, you would have a path how to enter it, and then maybe the special room consists of very small blocks that you can sort of jump on. And then it has a partner which also has these small blocks on it. And in that way, it's actually double room, but it only has a requirement on the connection with the bottom one. All right, so maybe this is even like completely blocked off, right? And so maybe you have a nice platform here, and there is your NPC that actually wants to talk to the player. And in this way, you sort of being able to inject a double room into the level, and that is connected. This is typically done for the shopkeeper. So you would have a shopkeeper actually down here, and then it has a ladder that goes to the second layer, second tile, and there is his secret stash. So he would have this entrance to his secret stash, and that way, yeah, you can sort of inject this in there. And the special rooms come in two varieties, or there's like a boolean on it that you can check, and that's, is it mandatory or not? So for example, shopkeeper is never mandatory because it might or might not spawn. And this is just the nature, right? Like if you're lucky, you get a lot of shopkeepers, but if you're not, you don't get any. And now what is mandatory is, for example, the Ujat room, it has to spawn. So there's the Ujat eye in Spelunky, right? It's like the little eye that has like the golden, I don't know, stuff on it. I actually don't know how it looks. So I'm just gonna draw some mess. And yeah, so there's like the Ujat eye, and it actually has to spawn somewhere, either on the second level or on the third level. And so on the second level, it's sort of not mandatory because it might not spawn. But on the third level, if it didn't spawn on the second, it really is mandatory. Like, you cannot generate a level and have it missing. That would be illegal. And so that's actually a feature in the level style as well. So as I was talking about it, here are actually all of the definitions, and I'm just going to go over them. But the thing is that you can actually have a mandatory flag on the special room, and if the special room is mandatory, it has to be spawned in. And if it's not spawned in, then the level gets actually regenerated from the beginning. So this could happen, for example, because this special room with the Ujet eye just doesn't connect to anything. So what you could have is, for example, these rooms on top all have ground, and then this room has like a corner here, and then this room has like this side here, and then this has a ceiling. And so, okay, and then this one also has a ceiling. All right, and then maybe this also is just a wall. And then maybe this is also has a wall. Sorry, maybe the other way actually. Maybe the exit has like a wall here. Okay, and so now no matter where you put this Ujet eye, and I should have probably just deleted this because this is no longer really relevant. Just gonna do whoop. Okay, and so no longer is it possible to actually put the Ujet eye room anywhere, because no matter where you put it, it will always have a wall in between, right? And sort of, you could live with this. That's one possibility, but you could also just say, I don't want this. This is not something I want, and I want the player to be able to traverse it even if they don't have a bomb. Maybe your game doesn't have a bomb, right? Maybe your level just is always static and you cannot break anything. So no matter where you put this Ujet eye, it's not valid. And sort of in this case, the level would just get completely deleted and regenerated again. So maybe, you know, this time we would go this direction or this direction or this direction, right? Or maybe we even go the same path just by random chance. But this time we actually don't put a tile here which has a wall. And so suddenly the Ujet eye can actually live here and be connected. So that's sort of the level generation in a nutshell. There's more to say about it, and I could talk about it probably for another hour, but let's sort of jump into Unity and start looking at what these things represent and how you can define them. So the level generator is generating the level, right, by the name. Now, every level that you have in your game would have a sort of a configuration that you would like to use for that level. And this is where the level style actually comes in. So a level style is a scriptable object that defines how the level works in its, like how it works, right? So it has a lot of settings. So let's go one by one and explain what it does. So first of all, it has a setting for the default ground tile. All right. So this is something that happens is that if you place a tile somewhere as a ground, like the level generator might be placing these sort of ground tiles somewhere, like the default ones. And if it does that, it will use this one. I don't think currently it's used. Let me actually check for that. So, yeah, so now I know, okay. So actually this one is used for the bottom and the top. So since all of these rooms that we have look a little bit like, well, actually, let me draw one. Okay, so we have our room, and the room is loosely defined as a set of tiles. So the tiles look like this, and the tiles might be connected to each other. It really doesn't matter how they are connected. But the thing is if you have a room, you will most likely have holes on the side and on the top, on the bottom, on the left and right. So on the left and right, it doesn't really matter. I think it looks okay if you have sort of a wall here and a wall here, it's all right. But if you really get like the wall on top, this is the edge of the level, then it looks a little bit silly. So that's why we have defined this sort of default ground tile, and they get placed along the top edge. Yeah, you see like there's a very thin layer of these tiles which goes all the way around and also all the way on the bottom. And this way on the top and on the bottom, you're not actually stepping on this on the edge or on the ground itself, because it looks just a little bit weird. Here on the edge it looks okay-ish, so I left it. That's how actually Spelunky 2 does it. And yeah, like you can try to disable it, it just looks a little bit silly. So okay, so that's one thing. Then we have a background sprite. So this is whatever is used for the background. Then we have a background color. So here you can actually modify how it looks a little bit. And that way you can sort of achieve your creative vision for this level. Then you have a surrounding tile. So that is actually used for sort of adding these tiles around. So it's actually two things. So first of all, you have this wall tile. You can sort of see it here. It's only visible partially. It's this part here. And this is actually, yeah, so if I click on it, you can see that it's actually just this one tile all around the level. And it's there for two things. So first of all, it should be indestructible, I think, in your game. And so it sort of acts as a barrier, as a collider for the player, so that they cannot like jump out of the level. And the second thing is that you can actually like style it in the same way you would style these other tiles. And what I mean by that is mostly the border. So you can see, like, since this is a real tile, it will have this sort of a border generated around it, and this actually gives it like a nice connection to the level. Yeah, right. But you don't want to actually spawn tiles all the way out here, because that's a lot of tiles. Each tile adds some sort of overhead in terms of performance, like rendering, but also processing it. Especially if you have a colliders around here, there's no point to have a collider there. Like, there's no physics good that's gonna happen here. And so actually this sort of a bulk of the wall is actually just one quad that has a special material. As I move it, you can see actually that it doesn't matter where I place the quad, because it's rendering in terms of world space. And if you kind of overlay, so you can see that the wall actually generates the border also on the outside, because there's technically air here. And so we use this quad to sort of hide that. And because they use the same shader, there's actually no seam, because they're rendering literally the same thing. And so you will not actually get any seam inside the play mode, and that's the beauty of it. And that's what's defined in the level style. So that's the fourth or fifth thing, called Tilemap, the surrounding material. So you have the surrounding tile, and then you actually have the surrounding material. So that's the material that's on this edge, and that actually gives it this this material, and then it sort of renders correctly. You really need this material, and I'll go over those in the future. So then we have this spawnable object patterns, and those are kind of complicated, so I won't go over them, but at least right now. And what I'll just explain is that they are there to spawn the shadows. So you can see like every block has a shadow, and not only that, they also spawn these nice little flowers all over the place, and they use pattern matching to figure out where they can place these. Yeah, unfortunately shadows don't totally line up. You have to fix that for your game. I mean, this is more about a generation than about these tiny visuals. Cool. So that's how you spawn the flowers, or whatever else you really want in your game. So then really one of the bigger settings here is the level tile size. And the tile size is just telling you how big the level will be. So now we have a level that's composed of 4 rooms horizontally and 4 rooms vertically. But you can very easily imagine you could have 8 by 8. level, and then if you click generate, it will take a while because it needs to run the algorithm, but once it does that, it will actually generate it. Now the whole generation process is running on a different thread, so you don't actually have to be worried about things lagging. So I'll just like try to move this around, and you can see like while it's generating, it's not like lagging my, oh, actually it's really fast on my computer, but it's really like not gonna lag anything. And even if you like go into the loading and you had like a spinning circle, it would not lag because the rendering thread is different one than the one that's actually calculating all of these things. And that's pretty awesome. So then you can go to the build mode direction. So we show the top to bottom. That's the most basic one. That's the Spelunky uses. You just pick randomly on top layer a room, and then you go and you create this. We can actually visualize it. So I did add this sort of a visualizer that shows you. You can show the main path, and you need to enable gizmos. But if I do like show main path, it will try to show me how the level was generated. So let me just generate a new one. Okay. Yeah, so maybe it is slightly broken. Okay, but actually oh yeah, because it's very tiny line, and I think it's just not getting drawn. Yeah, so if you do show shortest path, this will actually show you how the how the player can reach the exit the fastest. You can also show the main path, and the main path is sort of showing you the direction. So it's like going here, then down here. It seems like the main path visualizer might be broken. Maybe we do need to go into play mode to show it. And let's see. All right, so there's a lot of things going on. Yeah, so here it's actually working in the play mode because it takes some, yeah, okay. So yeah, you can see like it's pathing through, and I will like slowly show you the path that it took to generate. So yeah, so here the path is actually quite complicated. Yeah, so yeah, and then went down here, and then went here, and that's it. Oh, actually it went here. Oh my goodness, that is a very long path. And then you're at the end. So yeah, using that you can visualize the path that they took to the end. And again, you can show the shortest path as well. And yeah, for me it's really just lagging because I have so many colliders, and they all need to render their gizmo. But if I do remove that, it will actually speed up dramatically. So let's try to find a collider. Where is the collider? So collider is a, yeah, I think it's called a square. Sorry, it's a box collider. Yeah, it's here. Okay, so that will actually speed up things quite a lot. Yeah, in any case. So yeah, that's how you can draw it. So on bigger levels, definitely the performance can tank a little bit. So that's why I recommend just using a smaller level to prototype things. So let's go back into the level style. So you can imagine you're gonna be building from left to right, and I'm gonna just decrease it a little bit here, and I'm gonna hit generate. And I'm gonna hit generate, and so now you can see that the level is actually being composed from left to right. So we start here and we go all the way down here. Now we ran into our first issue, and that is when you don't have enough tile variants, it might not be possible to place all of the rooms. And what is happening here is that if you go from left to right, you actually need to be able to enter the exit room from the bottom. And that's really like a basic geometry problem. Yep, and I'm just gonna do it like that, and I'm gonna again like draw the level a little bit just so we can talk about it. Yes, so if you go from top to bottom, then your exit room can have completely blocked off bottom, because that's just how it works. Like, you will never have to enter the exit from the bottom, so you can just block off the bottom and you can place the door on it. But now if you go from left to right and you generate it this way and you want to end up here, then your exit room actually has a different constraint. It can block off the right side. It obviously doesn't have to, like, you can have also a hole here. That's fine. But it cannot actually block the bottom, and I'll just show that very easily. Is that because if your level generator goes like this and then it goes up, then you cannot actually have a exit room here which has completely blocked off bottom, right? So you have to have in your list of exit rooms, at least one of them has to have a enterable bottom, because you might end up in this situation, and then you really need to just pick something that is possible to enter from the bottom. So yeah, that's really the constraint, and that's something you really have to think about, is that like, the rooms have to be connectable, and if they are not, then your level generation will fail. And so we really got a fail here, and the reason why we got the fail is that because you cannot enter the end room, like, from the bottom. So I believe this yeah, and this failed. Now currently, if this kind of fail happens, there is no fallback. It doesn't try to regenerate. Maybe that is a weakness. Hard to say, but I prefer that it fails on you and you realize, oh, I need to add more tiles to my level style. And once you do that, it will start working again. Maybe I'll try to showcase how that works in a little bit, and how you could fix it. So now let's go back to the level style and let's go top to bottom, because it's just easier to reason about that. Let's regenerate it, and then let's go back to level style and let's talk a bit more. So there's three concepts, right? You have the rooms, which are sort of the rooms in the middle that can be spawned anywhere. You have the start rooms and you have the end rooms. Not only that, but you also have those special rooms that we talked about. So the rooms in the middle, as we talked about, they're in anything that's between the start and the exit. Then the start is obviously where the player is starting, and the end rooms are the places where you can place the actual exit door. They have some interesting constraints, like the start rooms have to have this sort of a door somewhere, and the end rooms actually have the door somewhere as well. And then the special rooms, they can be just spawned anywhere, and they have this sort of a pattern to them. Okay, so first of all, you have a group ID. So a group ID tells you that these two things are actually interchangeable. So if we spawn this one in, it sort of satisfies that the group ID has been sort of spawned already, and so then this one actually doesn't get spawned. So if you set the group ID to the same text, then they will spawn together, and either one of them will spawn or the other one will get spawned, but they don't spawn together. And then you have this bigger room, which is actually composed of two rooms. And yeah, we can actually see it here. So this is the bigger room. I can check if I'm not lying to you, but yeah, that is the bigger room. So the bigger room is composed of two rooms. The bottom room in this case is the sort of a parent or the control one, which actually has to be connected to the level. And the top one is optional, like it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And the way you control it is that you have this one room as a parent of the smaller child room, but the parent can specify using the special room attribute is actually like in which way you want to put the child in. And so now I put it down. Obviously it's not connected, so I probably don't want to do it like that, but you can, like it will spawn, because only this one really needs to be connected. This one is just totally optional. And then I can do left one and I can do right one. Sorry, I misclicked right one. Yes, so I could do that as well. So yeah, I can like put it on the left side, and now this room is sort of wants to be spawned connected from top or from the right side. Obviously you cannot connect it from the left because there's the child room there already. And now if I regenerate, we might actually see it sort of spawn somewhere. And let's see, will it spawn somewhere? It actually did spawn here. Yes, so here you can see it spawned. Now there is one caveat to all of this, and that the rooms can actually spawn in a mirror direction. So here we actually get the mirror. So this room is flipped on the y-axis, and that's why it actually spawned on the right side, because the whole thing is sort of mirrored. And this is a setting that can be set up per room. In general, you probably do want it, but that's just something to let you know. So I think that sort of covers the level generation itself. Now we can sort of delve deeper into what a room is and how you can create your own room. So just like we defined a size of the level, we should also define a size of each room. So you do this by creating a scriptable object. And a scriptable object that I have is actually contained in... So the scriptable object that I have is actually here in settings right now. And I have this room size, and I just use like these names to basically, so you have this room size, and it's actually just a vector to integer variable. And what it does is that you can set it up to be any number you want. I will not mess with it because it might break all of my rooms, but I can later show you how you can actually use it. So all of our rooms are defined to have 16 by 9 tiles big rooms. So this is the size that I believe Spelunky uses, or at least it's very close to it, and that's why I chose it, because it just looks pretty darn good. And then every single room that you want to use in your level has to have the same size. So that's why it's a scriptable object that you can reference from your rooms. And I'm gonna start with a start room, because that's the one that actually player starts from. And yeah, let's take a look at it. So what a room is that it is an object which has a structure on it and has a smart room on it. So those are the two things that you need. You need to be a structure, and you need a smart room. Now, a smart room contains actually two things. So it contains an entrance, and then it references this structure. And the structure is just a collection of tiles, and it's a way how we can sort of reference these tiles and then tell the level generator where to spawn them. And so once you're in a room, it is really just a classic tile grid that you can paint into. So I'm gonna open a tile palette. You should already have one predefined by me from the package. So you can paint it. So let me just click on this one, and I can immediately paint some tiles into level. And because they're rule tiles, these ones, they actually nicely connect. And then as you paint it, it just sort of accepts whatever you paint into it. Yes, and so since this is a start room, it will actually be very important that we have this entrance handle, and we can place it anywhere. So I'm just gonna place it, let's say, in this little spot down here. And if this room gets spawned, this is where it will spawn the entrance. And I can also just hide it like that. So here I can at least see the entrance visual, you know, and I can showcase the visual. And if I want to move it, I need to enable the handle so I can actually grab it and move it around. Yes, and so in order to prevent you from drawing outside is that I have this nice visual called like draw border, and you can remove that. You cannot still draw outside because it doesn't make sense to draw there, but like technically you could. I'm gonna enable it again because it just makes it a little bit more obvious where you're drawing into. And then I also have this position handle, but that is not used for this specifically because a room is not positionable. And I'll just explain what it means a little bit later. Then you can have this position, but this again doesn't make sense in the context of a room, so you don't care about it. Now you have some structure set up that you can actually define for the structure, and so when the structure gets spawned, you can set it up so that it's vertically flippable or horizontally flippable. Now almost all of my rooms are horizontally flippable because it just doesn't matter if the player enters them from the right side or left side, or if it's like flipped and then from the left side or right side. It will look good no matter which way it's flipped. If you have some sort of a children inside of it, maybe a sprite or a substructure, then it's really usually good to also flip the substructure or the child object, because then otherwise it would be kind of, yeah, it wouldn't match the rest of the room anymore. You can obviously also disable this, and then it will never flip itself to try to fit into the pattern. There's this substructure chance, so I'll just talk about the substructures in a little bit, but it basically means what chance you will spawn a substructure. And then there is some weight that you don't have to care about. Actually, these two are not even useful right now. But what you can do then is define those substructures that I was talking about. So let's say I want to have a substructure, and I'll just use one that already exists because it's just a little bit easier. So I can add one here. And so now this is a substructure. And it's a little bit mouthful, but it makes total sense. So let's say you want to spawn these 4 blocks like this, and you either want to spawn them all the time, or you just never want to spawn them. Okay, so like sometimes you want to spawn these like together, or you just don't want to spawn them, or maybe you even want to override this section here by these things, but only sometimes, maybe a 25% chance that this will happen. And if it happens, you want the whole thing to be replaced. And so that's how you use the substructures. So now this structure actually has this substructure. And you can sort of position it, and then you can set a chance that it will spawn. Yes. And so to make it spawn, you actually have to reference it, but it does that automatically. And then, yeah, you have the substructure chance that this will spawn with like 50%. I can actually make it 100% just so it shows up and you can actually observe it. And I'm gonna delete these two because I don't want them there. Cool. And then I can save this as my start room, so it's kind of messed up, but it's fine. And if I go here into my level generator and I spawn, yeah, so if I spawn and I do it enough times, I will actually get that starting room to show up. So I didn't get this time. No, no, no. Almost, but no. No. Yeah, so the level generator might not always choose the starting room that you want. And now we actually got it. Cool. So now you can see that the substructure has spawned and it overrode these 4 tiles in the parent structure. And it overrode the whole thing. And the nice thing about the substructure is you can change the percentage of chance that it will spawn. Let's say only 10% of the time it will show up. And this sort of allows you to create more variety on what it is. Okay, so for some reason now it's getting rendered a little bit further away, so we can just render it a little bit forward. Yeah, okay, cool. And then, yeah, it will just show up. That's probably something you want to do for your substructures, is to make them like that, like a little bit forward, just so that in the editor you can see them. When they get actually spawned, it doesn't really matter because they are not them rendered using this at all. This is just for the editor. Yeah, so now if I go into my level generator and I generate again, and then it uses the same starting tile, which will happen in a minute now. Yes, so since I set it to be on at 10%, now it actually didn't override the thing, and now it's not here. And that's really how the substructures work. And I believe only one substructure can spawn at a time. But this is really modifiable, like feel free to edit the code. It's not too difficult to make all of the substructures spawn, for example. But yeah, that's how Spelunky does it, and I think it's a very good system. That's why I chose to continue with it. Great. So now you understand a little bit of how like the rooms work, how when a room is a start room, you need to also define where to put this entrance handle. And by the way, one thing you notice, there is no like definition. Sorry, there is no definition that this is actually a start room. And you will also find that in the end room, there is no definition that this is the end room, because any room can be start or exit. What really sets them apart is that, first of all, like I define them differently as a layout. So maybe I define them like this. But what really sets them apart is that in the level style, you drag them into the correct bucket, let's say. Okay. Now let's try to figure out how we would create, or actually maybe one thing that I should talk about as well is how do we define these sort of flowers that are on the ceiling or on the ground. And I suppose you could spawn them in various ways, but I really like pattern matching. All right, so now let's talk about some pattern matching. So now you have let's say you have the room that are all spawned in, and you want to make them a little bit nicer. So maybe what you would really like to do is to draw some shadow in the corners like that. So every time you have a corner, you might want to sort of draw a shadow there to make it just look a little bit nicer, and it will sort of add this ambient occlusion effect that you want. And but how do you do that, right? And there's another question. Maybe you want to spawn flowers on the ground, but how do you spawn the flowers on the ground? You probably don't want to be defining flowers in every single room that you have. You could, and if you want to do that, it's totally a valid approach, but for me that's a little bit tedious. And so I was looking for a different way how we could spawn these flowers and these shadows. And actually we also use it to spawn enemies on the ceiling, these sort of bat creatures that are flying around, right? Although maybe the version that I published doesn't have bats, but I do it in one of my projects that I was working on, like a Spelunky clone. And so how do we spawn them? And so for that we actually use pattern matching. And to visualize what a pattern matching is you effectively take a chunk, kind of like this, and I'm gonna make it, sorry, that was a bit of a mistake. So you take a chunk like this, and yeah, I want to make it transparent. That did not work at all. Maybe like that. Yeah, that doesn't work. Doesn't matter. Okay. So what you do when you do pattern matching is that you look at a certain size of pixels together, or in this case tiles. So let's say I would look at 3 by 3 always, and then I would sort of infer if this matches what I want. So what I want, let's say I define a new pattern that I want to walk through this with, and it could be the corner one actually. So let me show what a corner looks like. What a corner is, and let's say we take a concept of 3 by 3, or actually it doesn't have to be 3 by 3, it should be 2 by 2 really for the corner. So for corner you need a 2 by 2 pattern like this, and you define a corner like this. You should also probably define that the corner can be flipped horizontally or vertically, or like this or like that. So all of these are corners, and that's how you define them. So now if we go into Unity, I actually do define the corners in that specific way. So here you have the spawnable objects, and here we have our corner shadow, and the corner shadow is actually using our sorry, this is the spawnable object. What I want is pattern, and I want a corner pattern. And so you can see actually that's how we define the pattern. So it's sort of like a 3x3 thing that defines that here are some air blocks, and then here it's like enforced air, and then like this actually doesn't matter, this is ignored. And then yeah, it's technically a 2x2. I mean, these are completely ignored. The ones which are blank are completely ignored. And that's actually true because corners don't actually care about this one tile here, right? So it can be actually like that. So what we really want to enforce is that here you have air, and then here you have some sort of a block, and here you have a block. And then the last thing here is like, you don't care about it. This is not that important.
Wake up, motherfucker. Don't even think about hitting that.
And so a corner is really defined by a corner is really defined in a sort of a tile system in a way that, let me draw it. So you have a pattern. I'm going to use 2x2 pattern because that's all you need. And I just want to enforce that here, let's say here, is nothing. And then here you have something, and here you have something. And the last tile, it literally doesn't matter what's in there because, well, it doesn't matter. That's not what the corner is. A corner is just a air block with two neighbors like that. And that's it. And I can also define that it can be flipped vertically, and it's still a corner. It can be flipped horizontally, and it's still a corner. And it can be flipped horizontally and vertically, and it's still a corner. Because a corner really is any of these things. Like, this is a corner, right? This is a corner. Oh my god, my skills in painting are atrocious. All right. So this is a corner, like here, and here is a corner, here is a corner. And then, yeah, I mean, it can be obviously also flipped. So like if I do this, then here is a corner, and here is a corner. And so what do I do with this pattern matching thing? So what I do is I take it, and I hope my transparency works, yes, and I sort of step through it. So I take a look here, and it doesn't actually work, and so I go next, and I go next, and I go next, and I go next, and I go like through all the thing here, and now here it still doesn't work, but it's a little bit closer, and I go here, it doesn't work, here it doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work is that because here should be a full block, but it's not. And so if I go to here, it almost works, but not yet. But here it finally works because here you have air on the X, on the cross, there's air. And these two are full blocks. And so you can see it actually does work, and this is a corner. And like your brain will actually agree with me that this is a corner. And then we go, and I'm just going to mark it. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to take this color, and I'm just going to mark it because we found a corner here. Okay, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to do, and actually here I'm going to find a second one. So I'm going to mark it again. So here we marked it again, and then you can kind of go through the whole thing, and you're never really going to find another corner like this. But the good thing is that we can also flip it horizontally, and it will still work, and we can sort of like go through it like that. And finally here it will actually match the corner, and so we can sort of like track it, right? And we can sort of go through it, and then here again it's gonna track it, so we're gonna put the corner here. And then no matter how we flip it again, it will not find it until we actually flip it vertically, and we flip it horizontally again, and then we're gonna find one here. And so it's gonna be our last corner. And I believe there's no other corner. And so since we have that, we can actually just like draw the shadows in those corners, right? So that's how it works, really. So you do that, boop, and that's how you generate these sort of things. Now the pattern can be also different. Like what you can imagine is that we have a different pattern, and this pattern is actually maybe it can be actually 1 by 1 or 1 by 2. That's the smallest pattern that you, well, I guess 1 by 1 is the smallest pattern, but then matches every single full block, which maybe is not always desirable, but it can be. And the smallest one can be like this, that I think I use, is like that. And so this one really matches anytime you have a block and then you have air above it. And now you look at this and you're like, oh wait, that can be used to spawn those flowers. So maybe every time we find this, we actually spawn a flower. So I'm just gonna draw a nice flower. Okay, that's not a flower really, but yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah, so you're just gonna like spawn a flower. And yeah, so now you can actually spawn it here, you can spawn it here, you can spawn it here, and you can spawn it here. So that's where you will spawn the flowers. And now if you combine it with some random chance of not spawning things, you can actually just spawn maybe flower here, and then here you're gonna roll a die and it's not gonna succeed. So it's only like here, and then it's only like here, and maybe you succeed here as well. So you have 3 flowers, but you don't have it every single time. And that's exactly what this sort of a ground pattern does. As you can see, there's an enforcement that there should be a block below something, and then here you have it. And there's this flipping rule, which is telling you that this will never get flipped horizontally or vertically, because you never want to find ground on the ceiling or on the sides. Whereas with the wall pattern, with the corner pattern, we actually do want to sort of mirror X and Y. Because yeah, you want to actually match all of these different corners in all of the directions. So there's actually like 3 different rules that you can use. How do you spawn, let's say, things on the wall? So a wall pattern is basically telling you that you need air and something on the side. So this would be a nice example, although it is in the different direction. And the reason why it works is because you have this flipping rule that tells you that you can actually flip it horizontally, and so you can also imagine it's like that, right? It doesn't actually matter which way you define it. It could be either way. Yeah, and so yeah, you can like draw here, and you can actually make it way bigger by auto extending neighbors, and if you do that, it will actually sort of make it always have 1 extra space around it so that you can actually draw into it. So yeah, you can like draw it like that, and it's going to be really big. And but I'm not sure you really want to do that in principle, because that's just going to make it very performance heavy. I mean, you really need to be matching this whole pattern against the whole level, which is quite expensive if you think about it. It's a lot of operations. It is usually very fast, fortunately, but technically it can be like very expensive. So I'm just going to delete all of that, and I'm going to remove the rule, and now it's fine. Yeah, and so all right, and so you have 2 extra things. There's the unique positions. So if you don't do unique positions, this means this can spawn over something else, which generally is fine. But yeah, you probably don't want to be. Let me explain it where it could be. Yeah, like in this corner, you could have it spawn on this side, but also on this side, and then you would have it on both, which would be maybe a little bit strange. And so you usually want to do unique positions, just so you're not doing this extra spawning on top of each other. And yeah, so then you actually define a spawnable object that will be spawned in the level. And that's just going to be using this pattern, and then this pattern gets referenced from the level style, and the level style is defining all of the patterns that are going to be used to walk through the level, and just put them there. Yeah, so maybe what I can do is now I can like create my own level, and I can sort of showcase all of the steps necessary to create your own level. So we're gonna start by just leveraging everything that's in here already, but we're just gonna define our new level style, okay? So let me go here and let's create a new folder, and it's gonna be called our experiment. and we're gonna start creating things. So first of all, we do need to create a level style, and level style, and we can name it whatever, is gonna be referenced by our level generator. So right now, if I do generate, it will probably throw a lot of exceptions because our level style is not at all defined. So it's missing a lot of things, and yeah, that's not very good. So first of all, what you need is some sort of a ground tile to put the corner, sorry, the bottom and the top, so we're gonna create a new level, a new tile, and I recommend using my smart tiles as the basis. And the reason for that is that the smart tile can actually reference a game object, and this is very important. Game objects are what actually contain colliders and actually define what is traversable and what is not. Okay, so since you have this, now we actually have to reference a game object. So I'm gonna create a new, actually I cannot really do it there, but I'm gonna create a new 2D object in the scene called, let's do a square one, sprite, and let's call it our test tile. And our test tile, it will contain a, well, it can just look like that. It can be white for now, although I would prefer if it was at least a little bit red, okay? Just so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm gonna make it a prefab, okay? I can delete it from here. And I'm gonna open the prefab and I'm gonna add another thing, and that's gonna be the box collider 2D, because without it, I will not actually be able to have any collisions with this, and that would not be very good. So in our style, we're gonna define that this to be a, sorry, we need to have a smart tile and assign it a game object, and then we go into the style and make this into a default ground tile. So that works. Now if I do level generate, it will not work anyway because I still need a lot more things to define. So the background sprite for now can be really whatever, and I'm just gonna set it to be a, yeah, it's a good question what it should be, but I'm gonna use something already existing. So let's take a look into sprites, what we can find, what would look good, and maybe we can use something like background blue rocks as the actual background, okay. Now then the surrounding tile needs to be like this edge. We've already seen this. So again, like define it using a game object. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna first of all copy this smart tile and call it the edge tile. And this is gonna be like the ground tile, okay. And then I'm gonna copy this prefab and call it the edge tile. And this is the ground tile, great. And so our edge tile needs to be referencing the edge tile game object. And then in the style, we're gonna define the surrounding tile using that. Now, we also want to define a material that will sort of define the edge. And for now, it can really be just a placeholder. So I'm gonna create a material that's gonna be based on a 2D, sorry, where is it? So we go shader graphs. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I want universe rendering pipeline, and I want to just use 2D spriteless. Yes, just sprite default, or I guess I can use like the unlit one if I want. And this can be our, for now, this can be our material. This can be the sort of the edge material. That's pretty funny. Although what I might recommend is that in the smart rooms you would use actually the tile, the Tilemap, so that you get this nice tiling effect. And yeah, that's actually what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna define that into here, and I'm gonna also define it as a material for my edge. So I'm gonna add it here, boom, and that's it. Yes. So the material doesn't really do much now, so I'm just gonna keep it like that. Maybe one thing though, I should set this back to white so that it's really like taking the advantage of the material. And the material itself, I believe I can change the color like that. Is it true? It is not true. I guess I lied. I guess the color to be overlaid on top doesn't work when you don't have a texture. Although maybe the tint, yeah, the tint will actually work. So yeah, so now it kind of works. So then we need some spawnable object patterns, but for now those we can actually ignore. Those are not that important. We will be building a level that's going to be just 2 by 2 for now. It's going to be very small, but that's okay. And we're going to be generating from, you know what, let's go bottom up, just to mix things up. And then we need some rooms, start rooms and end rooms. So these are mandatory. The special rooms can be ignored, but these are mandatory. So we will need a start room. So here, I suppose we could create a vector2 int variable, and that's gonna be the room size. And for now we can do something like 5 by 5. So each of our rooms will be 5 by 5. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now I'm just gonna create a new room. So you can create your room however you want. But for me, the easiest way how to do it is to actually create a, well, let's just create empty game object. And this is going to be like our start room. And then you can just add a smart room to it. So you add a smart room, it does a bunch of things. Maybe it also did some null reference. And the reason why it's doing null reference is that because it's missing the size variable, it doesn't know how big it's supposed to be. So we do need to reference something to it. And since I defined this room size here, I'm gonna put it in there, and now it works. That's pretty awesome. And it's even like doing some stuff. So the rooms are not really, should not be inside a scene itself. They should be a prefab. So I'm gonna create a prefab and delete it from here, okay? And then I'm gonna open it separately. And as you can see, now I can actually use it. Now, since I defined the room to be a odd number of blocks, now the position for the start is actually sort of offset. So I will offset it by 0.5. Sorry, the position of the start cannot be actually, oh, that's interesting. So if you have odd number, it will sort of behave a little bit strangely in the X direction. That is not ideal. Okay, so we're gonna do 6 by 5 for now. But this I could probably fix at some point. Yes. Okay, so now it works perfectly. Awesome. Yeah, so okay, cool. So now you can place the position of the start anywhere, and it will be the position of the start room. So now I'm gonna also create a end room, just using this as a template, and I'm gonna do like a middle room. Okay. Now all of these look exactly the same, and I'll organize things inside folders just so it's a little bit easier. And let's just put all of these rooms into the rooms. And then here we're gonna create like tiles, and into it we're gonna put the edge tile and the ground tile. And then we're gonna create a tiles game objects. And then we're gonna put it in there. We're gonna create something called settings, where we're gonna put these two things because those are really like settings. And then we're gonna create a material where we're gonna put the edge material, that's what I meant. Great. And then for the style, we can actually now define what we want. So we're gonna take the start room and we're gonna put it in the start rooms. We're gonna take the middle room, put it in the rooms, and then the end room and put it in the end room. So now we actually have a fully set up level generation, and we can go in the level generator and hit it. Yeah, awesome. So that doesn't look very nice, but it's technically generating a level now. So the reason why it looks a little bit weird, and there's actually several reasons for this. So first of all, for the edge, we are using this edge material, and it's yeah, it's not perfect by any stretch of imagination. So yeah, right now it's just a yellow thing, and it's sort of like showing up all over the place. I think there's also something that's a little bit, yeah, there's the wall editor. So if you go play, it will look a little bit different, I think. Yeah, sorry, no, it doesn't look different. Okay, so we're just gonna remove the wall editor from there. Okay, and we can instead of like use the box just so that it renders like, yeah, we can use like a, or square. No, that doesn't work either. Interesting. So yeah, you can like define whatever you want, but yeah, just generally it will not look very nice. So yeah, so for the edge, you really want to be using this material, and because we didn't set it up, it doesn't work. So ideally what you want is you want to set up some sort of a, like a several textures, like 5 different textures, and I'm just gonna use something that already exists. So there are these like blue tiles, and I'm just gonna choose those, all right? So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and I actually don't have enough, so I'm gonna use the number 2. And then here you need to assign a Perlin noise. So I do have this one that you can already use. And then for the editor, so that you can see something in editor, we can actually use the blue tile editor. And yeah, it should pretty much work, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? That's a good question. So for that, you should always consult the already existing materials, and let's take a look at those. So here we have the Tilemap wall. So what does it do? So first of all, there are like some extra settings. Here we have 2, 2, and 0.25. So that's okay. That's not that different. Okay, so here we're gonna probably choose also like 2 by 2. Right. And yeah, for the background, we can use the blue rocks. That's awesome. I do wonder what the white thing is. Oh, the white thing is actually the edge, right? So the edge is yeah. So we need to go into tiles, into the edge tile, and into the in the edge tile game object, and it's actually being rendered with this white white thing here, which isn't very pretty. So we're gonna use the edge tile. So let's do editor, and we're gonna use the blue tile editor just so it looks a little bit better. And let's generate again. Yeah, because it's okay. So actually, what it's rendered here is from the tile itself. Yeah, Unity is sort of doing all of these things all over the place. But okay, so I'm going to replace that, and that will look a little bit better. Let's try to generate again. Great, so that looks a little bit better. Now it's still placing these like white boxes everywhere, and that's because our ground tile is also a white square. So I think here it's time to sort of define something a little bit nicer for the ground. So the ground could be, for example, and I'm going to use some of our already existing sprites because it's just a little bit easier. Yeah, so I'm gonna use like our orange tiles. So I'm gonna use this orange tile. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna go into the ground tile as well, and I'm gonna also set it to the orange tile, just so that in the editor I can actually see something that's a little bit reasonable. Now one thing to note is that if you're, yeah, so this one is the orange tile editor, so that's the one I'm gonna use. And yeah, here also you should set up the editor one just because it's a little bit nicer to use. Great. So really how you should be rendering these tiles here, generally speaking, is using this sort of a special Tilemap material. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to use the ground tile name on it, which doesn't matter, but it's nice. And then for the, where is it? There's the game object, and I'm going to set the material of the game object to be the ground tile. Okay. Now the ground tile right now is defined using these blue things, but I don't want to use the blue things. I actually want to use the orange things. So I'm going to set it to the orange textures. Now this time I actually missed one. Doesn't matter. I'm going to switch them up. So all of the orange ones are now nicely created, and I can go play. And it works. Awesome. Yeah. Great. So now our ground tiles can actually use this ground time material, and our edge tiles can use the edge tile material. So now, yeah, if I like generate it, you'll see that it looks like it's generating the level, and because every room is made out of air only, it can actually just generate them however it wants. So it doesn't really matter. It's flipping some of them vertically, that's why they sort of like shift a little bit, because they can also be in the other orientation. They can be flipped vertically. And yeah, so in the end, you actually get a sort of a level. Now one thing that's maybe not totally good is that this Perlin noise is not that nice. Maybe I want to use something different for the Perlin noise. Maybe you want to use something like that. Also, I don't totally like how the borders don't look very nice, which is a little bit strange. I'm surprised it's like that, because it shouldn't be. Yeah, so use those, and then here in the tiles themselves, so I'm pretty sure that this doesn't matter, like whatever you said here, right? Like that doesn't matter. Yes, that's not the problem for me. Let me try to put the wall on it. Yeah, so the wall looks good, funnily enough, but the current edge material doesn't look that good. So let's just try to check what's different about them. I don't know why it takes so long. That's weird. So debug Perlin 1.0. Okay. Yeah, so it's probably like this should be reverted. Yeah, I'm quite surprised why this is not rendering correctly. Let me save that. Yeah, so unfortunately this value was set by default to the wrong one. That has to be 1000. Yes, so you have to set this number to about like 1000 or maybe 100 or something like that. It's a yeah. So that's how it should be. Cool. And you can actually visualize it, like you can visualize the Perlin noise by setting this to 1, then it will showcase the Perlin noise much nicer. Yes. So now our textures have a small issue, and that's because they are not clamp. When they have the wrap, they should actually be repeat. So they are nicely repeated all across the level. That looks very good. Now these don't totally match, and that's again because they are not we are not in play mode, but in play mode they actually do work very nicely. For the ground material, we also have to set this to about 1000, and when you do that, you will actually have nice ground that actually does work. You can also set this to different number. I said that, but for some reason it doesn't work. Okay, so now it works, yes. So if you want to affect the tiling, you can actually sort of stretch it and squash it however you want. But I think 1 by 1 looks, 2 by 2 probably looks the best. And that's really good. Okay. So yeah, so now we have some basic things set up. We can actually walk around here. We actually have a wall that works. And now we can sort of move forward. So to make actually the level, let's go into the start room, and we're gonna draw something with our tile palette. And I'm gonna add my ground tile to this palette right here. Or actually, you know what? I'm gonna create a new palette. I'm gonna take these 2 tiles and I'm gonna right click on those. I'm gonna select both, and then I'm gonna do tile palette, and it's called rectangular one. Cool. For some reason it always gets spawned down there, so I'm just gonna spawn it here. And then, yeah, I guess I have to drag them in. Okay, great, and I have them here. I'm gonna edit the tile palette, and I'm gonna just grab this thing here, and I'm gonna paint it. Sorry, I'm gonna take this one here, I'm gonna paint it there, and then I'm gonna delete it on top. Okay, so just so they are next to each other like that, it looks a little bit better to me. Then I'm gonna disable that, and now I can actually like select either of those and yeah, and paint with them. So I'm gonna paint using the ground most of the time, right? So this is our start room. So our start room could be something like this. I don't know what that means, but that's how it can be, and it can be like that. All right, so it's gonna be looking like this. And since we're generating from bottom up, this is actually very nice because we should always be going upward, right? Then the middle room, so the middle room has to connect to everything. So for now, I'm just gonna keep it quite vague. I can actually hide this this dragging thing because it's not necessary. And I'm just gonna draw something that's gonna be sort of connectable to anything for now. And then I'm gonna go to the end room, and the end room has to have an exit. So maybe the exit is gonna be in the corner, and I'm gonna do something like that. All right, save. Now if I go back and I generated the level, you will see actually that all of these patterns are being used. So actually one thing though, I don't like how the exit is sort of too high. And let's move it back. Cool. So let's regenerate it, and yeah, so that works pretty nicely. The exit is here. I'm gonna disable drawing, yes. So we see that the exit got generated in the corner on top, and then the bottom one is here, and then we have these 2 rooms which are just blocks. And like if I generate, we will get all of these different combinations, and yeah, like all of this is valid. Now, how exactly am I going to get from here to here? Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that there is an air path, and then it's up to your game how to figure out how to connect these. Like your game could be about flying creatures, and then it doesn't matter if you're going up all the time. Yeah, and so now you can start iterating. So let's say the middle room is a little bit boring. So you want to add maybe a variation, and you want to paint, and you want to add like, I don't know, a full block. All right, but maybe you also make it so that you can like fly like that. Awesome. But now I believe if you generate, there's a very high chance you're gonna have a failure. So you can actually couldn't generate level in 10 tries. So you can like try to generate, and you will actually never manage to generate anything. And I'll draw it actually in here. Is that what you're really getting here is that like this is like that. Imagine it like that. And yeah, like your level cannot be completed because it's there is no way for it to finish. So if I go back into the middle room, it's really because I'm missing these sort of like side passages, and if I create those, it will work again, I think. Let's try. Boom. Yeah, so we actually managed to generate something. And while it is not perfect like at all, it it actually does generate a valid level. So it works by effectively taking this top one. It's a little bit weird here. Let's do 3 by 3 because it's just going to be a little bit easier to sort of understand. So let's try that. And actually 3 by 3 is not generatable right now, which is interesting, but I think I know why. Let's try to take a look at this. So the middle room is still not very good. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit easier to navigate. I'm gonna make 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. But the thing is that like this has to be connectable to this, otherwise it's not very possible to go up, right? So what I will actually do is that I will duplicate the middle room, and the middle room 1 will be sort of a different vibe. It's gonna be like that. And yeah. And then I can go here into the style and I can add my second middle room. And if I generate, it should work. Yes, it does work. And because it's like first using one of them to go up 1 and then to the side. So it's actually going like this and up and this and up. And then it replaced this one with the end room. I'm gonna put it like that, yes. Alright, so this is not a very nice room. I'm just gonna improve on it. So I'm gonna create another one. And this time this one will have even more options. Maybe we're gonna make it a little bit asymmetric. I think it's really nice to make like asymmetric tiles like these ones. Yes, and I'm gonna make another one. And the other one is just gonna be like a sort of a divider. So it can only be used as a like going up here or going up here. And I'm going to duplicate, I'm going to make another one, and that's actually going to be a little bit like similar, but actually in the other direction. So here you can go to the side, but you can go any other way. And we're going to go back to the style, and we're going to lock this so that doesn't disappear. And we're just going to take all 3 of those and put them into the rooms, save them. And then if we generate a level, I need to unlock this. Then yeah, you can see like it actually starts to create like a little bit interesting levels. Now it's not totally interesting, but it's kind of interesting, right? And yeah, so now you can start playing with things. One thing that I didn't totally explain is that there are like different types of tiles. The level generator implicitly expects you to have a game object based tiles. And if they don't have a game object, then it considers them as air, as traversable. And so it really expects that like your ground tile has a collider on it. And if it doesn't, that's a problem. Now, something you might be wondering is like, okay, so I have this smart tile, which, what does it do? Like, why does it exist? So the smart tile is existing for a very simple reason. Unity doesn't allow you to attach game objects to your tiles. Like it technically does allow it, but there is no field that you can put it into, you know, you cannot like drag something here if it's a normal tile. I can probably even demonstrate that is if I create a, actually it doesn't allow you to create normal tiles either. You need to create it from a sprite. So that's also another thing that's a little bit annoying to me. Yeah, so that's why I created a smart tile, so you can create it and then you can assign everything to it. Now, something that's also very important is that you have the ability to switch between 2 different versions of a tile, and this creates a nice variable environments. So that's why I created a quantum tile. This will be like a quantum orange tile. And what it's going to be doing is that it's going to have, sorry, not orange, but ground. Let's do quantum ground tile. And so this actually has 2 different game objects, and it will switch between them based on a chance. So let me assign a ground tile here. Okay. And let me add the ground tile here. Okay. So right now the ground tile is there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we have a small issue, is that you do need to set up your yeah, you're like importing settings to be as a sprite. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty important actually. So once you have that, you can actually drag it here and it should work. Does not work. What the heck is going on? Yes, so you do need to like set it up here so that it's imported correctly. So this content tile will actually create its own sprite based on the percentage. Sorry, this will spawn a tile based on a percentage. And for some reason right now it has like trouble rendering. Oh, sorry, show sprite at none. Oh yeah, okay. So it's basically that's a bit silly. I think you need to change how it works now. Shit. Yeah, so what you really want to set on the quantum tiles is to instantiate game objects on runtime only. So that's a little bit of a setting that you probably want to do. And then, yeah, you can like select the percentage chance that it's gonna switch between those two, okay? And what you can even do is that you can also put the edge tile here, and then it will automatically update. There is only one problem, is that the blue tile editor, okay, so here we have the blue tile editor. It has to be a, or sorry, orange tile. No, that's fine. The blue tile editor has to be readable. So don't forget to set that. So yeah, it has to be readable. And then when you set it to different percentages, really blue tile editor is not readable. That is strange. Blue tile editor is read and write. Oh yeah, so I probably misclicked there. Yeah, so then your quantum tile, as you can see, like will actually update, and it will show you the percentage that it's gonna be one or the other. So if I do like this, each of these tiles is deciding which one it will be when it gets spawned into the level. So now if I do generate, you can see like all of them are here. And now they will not actually spawn unless we are in run, like in game. And if I do this, like eventually we will get that pattern with them. And yeah, you can actually see them here, like they're here and they are sort of randomly getting spawned in. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, so you can see like it spawned them here. Now, drawing with them is a little bit strange because they are basically like flipping between the two possibilities, and so the sprite that it's showing you is a little bit messed up, but yeah, you can see like it kind of works. Yeah, you can paint with it, and as you paint with it, it's like always kind of random. So even if you like paint with it like that, it's just gonna be very funny looking, you know. Yes. Cool, so that explains that. Did I have more questions over? Yep. So really what I'm trying to explain here in this long video is that you should really be looking at this style and then thinking about how to use this style. What we should do now is try to go create some special rooms. So I'm gonna create a special room here from this one of the middle rooms. And this will be our special room because it will actually be 2 rooms in one. You have to actually change this to be a special room. And either it can have a child or it doesn't have to have a child. I'm gonna make it so that it actually has a child. So this is gonna be child special, and I'm gonna reference it here. And now you can see we actually do have a sorry, that's a bad one. So we go special room and we actually put a child special here. Great. So then this special room actually should have a reference to this one, and it should put it somewhere, right? Actually with the child, you can't move it. You have to move it here. So we can go like left, we can go up, we can go up. Okay, let's go up. And our special room will actually, it should be connected, right? So I'm gonna create some sort of a, like I'm gonna get to go to the child. I'm gonna select my, yeah, that should be fine. I'm not sure why I can't edit things. Yeah, so now I can paint and I can delete. Okay, that was strange. Okay, so I'm gonna connect them like that, and so now they're nicely connected. And I'm actually just gonna sort of fill in this one because it's yeah, like that actually. Yes, that looks very good. So that looks fine. So now our special room is basically composed of 2 things together, and the bottom will be connected, so it needs these channels to connect into, but then the top one doesn't have to be connected to anything, and so it's just gonna be spawned in there. And that's pretty much it. That's our special room now. So now we go back to the settings and to the style, and we can add our special room into the special rooms. Oh, sorry, that's not how you add it. You have to actually do plus, and then you can reference it in here. You do spawn chance 100%, and you can make it mandatory, and this will be our, I don't know, cool room, right? Like this can be like cool room. So now this is mandatory to be spawned, and we can try to actually level generate. And it did spawn right in here. You can see it has first of all generated the main path. So you can see like this is the main path, but also it sort of generated the special room here just so that it's still connected to the main path. And it actually took 4 different attempts to generate because it's not very easy. We are in a very constrained situation here. I'm gonna increase to 4x4, which actually gives us more places to put this special room into. And I think we will only get 2 failures now. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, so it's like 2, sometimes 4, but it always seems like it will succeed. So here we actually put it onto the main path, which is quite a bold move from the level generator. Yeah, but it's completable. It's all good. Wonderful. Yeah, so wonderful. So you can see like the level is always generated with the special room, and it all nicely works. Great. So that's how the special rooms work. What you can also do is you can create like a special room, like different special room, and you can actually maybe make it out of different material just so it's a little bit different. Let's do that. just to show that it can work. And in the level style, we can actually add another cool room, and this time we're gonna reference the special room number 1. And what I'm just trying to showcase here is that now it still needs to generate at least one of those like cool rooms in the level, but it doesn't have to be both. And it will actually just like, now it generated the one with the blue tiles, but it didn't generate the other one. And here it generated just the normal one. Here it generated the blue one, right? So it will just generate one of them, but it will make sure that at least one of them exists, or actually precisely one of them exists. Yeah, and okay, so now we maybe want to add some foliage, right? Maybe you want to add flowers on top of every surface. So for that we do need a pattern, and we're gonna create like a patterns folder. And our patterns folder is we can create a smart rooms, and we're gonna create a generation and object pattern, and this is gonna be our ground pattern, and we're gonna already assign it into the patterns. And then the pattern itself, what it's gonna be is that we want there to be ground in the middle, and then there's gonna be nothing above it. Okay, we can also define it like that. It doesn't matter, it's kind of the same thing. And the flipping rule is just that's gonna be fixed. I don't want there to be flowers on the ceiling or anywhere else. Okay. Now it does need some spawnable objects to actually spawn them in. So I'm gonna create some. For me right now, what I want maybe is like a flower. So I'm gonna create a circle that's gonna be all yellow to represent our flower. And call it flower, but obviously this could be anything that you have. And I'm gonna put it into, let's say, the patterns for now. Just to showcase what it is, it's literally just a circle. That's literally what it is, okay? And I'm gonna create a new smart room. So I can actually right click on the flower itself to make it easier. And then I can create a spawnable object. Awesome. Actually, it didn't work, it doesn't link it, okay. So we're gonna call it flower spawnable object, okay, and I'm gonna reference the game object, cool. And then the flower can be referenced here in the spawnable objects. You can reference it, okay, so I need to do it like that, I need to do it manually, okay, cool. And then the spawnable object has a few settings on it. You think you can ignore it, it doesn't matter. Like if I do play, it's probably just gonna spawn flowers all over the place anyway. So you can see it, like it kind of works. But yeah, you can like edit some settings. So for example, the spawn chance could be way lower. It could be, you know, let's do 100 for now, and then the max spawned, I'm just gonna do like 1000 or 10,000, okay? So now there's flower on every single surface, but that doesn't look very good. So either you can say that there's only 10 flowers per level, and that will just spawn 10 flowers randomly, but not more. Sorry, it should be 10 and 100. So then it spawns it like that. Or you can say that there's only a 10% chance to even spawn a flower, and then it's gonna spawn way less of them. So I'm gonna do 1000, and the spawn chance is a, it shouldn't be like 0.1, no, it should be, well, it's 50. Yeah, so it's basically using like Perlin noise to spawn them. So, so be wary, like it doesn't totally match up, like it's not actually the spawn chance, it's more like using a Perlin noise to spawn them. So now I think I'm doing something a little bit wrong. Yeah, it's literally reading like Perlin noise, and it's using the threshold, and the Perlin noise that it's using is here, it's referenced in the Perlin texture. And so I think what's happening is that it's like, yeah, it's like sampling it a little bit badly right now. Yeah, I'm not totally sure why it's doing that, actually. That's slightly strange that it's doing that. Yeah, so there's something strange a little bit here. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, okay, but it does work. It's just that, yeah, it's a little bit random. And yeah, it seems like the Perlin noise maybe is a little bit offset towards the bottom, which maybe is not that great. Yeah. Yeah, so you probably want to so it's maybe like a little bit better to not use the spawn chance here, but instead actually use this maximum spawned objects to spawn them randomly around the level. Also, I'm not sure that, yeah, actually like spawning the things also doesn't work that well in the editor. So you definitely want to go into play mode and do this there. And yeah, let me do like 50% chance, and then here I can just try to like generate it. Yeah, you can see like it does work. It's just that okay. So yeah, by setting it to, let's say, 50%, now it's spawning them 50% of the time. And even if I do that, you can do like 1,000 of them. It will not cover every single place. Like it will cover a lot of places, but not every single place. And yeah, because it's using a Perlin noise texture, it can be quite sort of random how it spawns them. So it's a good thing to like either define your Perlin texture very well, or combine the max spawned, let's say 20, with the chance spawned. Then you can also do something like don't spawn on the edge, which when you do, it will never spawn them on a it will never spawn them like on the edge of the map. So for example, this is not really applicable here, but it will not consider like the ground here, down here, as a place to spawn. But since we don't really have that, it will always succeed, because it's really more about like the sides where you have exposed edges. Then you have more things. You have like fail chance. You can do like, it's probably even better to do something like, I can do 1,000 objects again, but then I can do like 80% fail chance. And when you do that, that's really just using a random noise. So now you can see like only 20% of the time it succeeds and spawns them. So the Perlin noise is a little bit more random, or less like predictable. Then yeah, all of these are actually pooled objects. So that's why I have this object pooling settings, where you can have like maximum pool size and maximum pool capacity. Yeah, and so then like if you are outside of the pool size, then it's not gonna actually spawn them. That's pretty much it. Like if you have too many of them, then it's just not gonna spawn that many. So if I do 10 here, and I do like 0 failure chance, it will spawn more, but I guess they will not be really pooled anymore. Well, actually, let me check if I do it again, because you need to reset. Yes, it still works. I'm not totally sure why the pool is getting ignored. It's probably because if you do this one, then it's probably gonna override the pool itself. Yeah. Then you can do flip on X or flip on Y. So this will randomly mean like they will get randomly flipped. With the flower, it probably doesn't matter, since right now it's just a circle, but we can improve the flower a little bit so that it's actually yeah, let me create like a nice thing. So we're gonna make this thing that's gonna be the base of the flower. Let's do 0.5 and let's make it like that, and then we're gonna add a yeah, it's gonna be kind of cute. Let's put it like that. That's gonna be the head of the flower. I don't know, it can be like that. And then we're gonna add like some petals, And the petals can be a circle, they can be very red, they can be very small, most likely. And then we're just gonna duplicate those, all right? Okay, and then the flower itself, we can just remove that. Okay, cool. So this is not very pretty, but it does work. And now we can just sort of like put it here, and we can duplicate that actually. We can put it like here, and we can sort of rotate this. Yeah, so maybe it's gonna be like that, all right? And now you have like this strange flower. So now if you actually regenerate level, let me just play, okay? And then you have all these strange flowers, but all of them are looking into the same direction, which looks a bit funky. So that's why in the flower spawnable object, you can actually flip them on X. Flip on Y doesn't make sense, but the flip on X you can actually enable. And if you do that, it will randomly flip them from one side to another. Let's see. So should work. Maybe it doesn't work because it's yeah. So flip on X. Yeah, and then let's go. Oh yeah, sorry, that's for the rotational offset. Yeah, so this is for the rotational offset. You can maybe like set that you want to do some sort of random rotation, and yeah, you can like flip the rotation if you're flipping the object itself. So that's something that can happen. Yeah. So yeah, you can do like rotation offset. Yes. So, and then this will always sort of happen for all of them. You can also do like some random offset. Yep. Now, if you want them to sort of face in different directions, you can go into the pattern itself and say that it can be flipped horizontally. And that actually is probably something that you do want. Oh, it doesn't work. So yeah, when I enable this, so I can enable also like this this side by this rule that allows me to flip them horizontally, and if I do that, then you can see like they can also be facing the other direction now. Now I disable this unique positions, so now the flowers can actually spawn on top of each other from the two directions. So if you do disable that, now they can actually only spawn, like they will not actually spawn on top of each other in the different directions. So now you can see like they always, but they also spawn only in one sort of direction always, which is maybe not ideal. It's maybe not what you want. So what I would recommend is if you want them to randomly face left or right, is that you actually disable this and you do unique positions. But then on the game object, when it gets spawned, you can add like a very small component that's just gonna flip the X direction, for example. And that's something that you could certainly do, and it will, yeah, allow you to do that. You can also like rotate this, and it will allow you to do like a rotated flowers. Maybe for the final thing is where we can like do a corner corner pattern, and I'm just gonna showcase how that looks. So this is a corner pattern, this is a standard one, and obviously you want to flip this one in all sort of directions. And now instead of the flower, we're gonna actually create a not a flower, but we're gonna do like a corner SO, and we're gonna create like a corner. Okay, so the corner SO needs to reference the corner, and then the corner pattern needs to reference our corner SO security spawnable object. And then the corner can be something a little bit maybe simpler, is that instead of this one, we're just gonna add a capsule, and the capsule is gonna be gray. Maybe this is like a shadow that we can orient like that, and then I think it could be like 0.5 and maybe a little bit offset. Okay, great. And yeah, let's add it as a style, the corner pattern, and let's try to spawn it. And unfortunately, it seems like now it's very hard to spawn the level, so I'm gonna remove the special rooms because they are making it a little bit harder. Yes, let's run it. Okay, so now you can see like all of the corners are spawning this special object, although it is quite offset from where we want it to be. So I'm just gonna put it a little bit more up. Okay, let's try it again. Yeah, so it's a bit silly, it's just getting spawned there, and it kind of does work. Now what you probably want is to disable the rotational offset. It's because it's just not gonna really work. And then yeah, like all of the corners now have this. Now what I also recommend is to never have it failed and have a maximum spawn something very high. I can actually set that as a pool size as well. And now you can see like every single corner in the game actually has like this thing here. And now for the corner, I believe you also don't want it to be a unique, because you want to have it on like here, but also here. And so what you can do now is like disable that. And now you can see you actually have like both of those. I'll improve it a little bit. I'm gonna make it maybe only like 0.25 and make it a little bit more in the corner. Actually, you can sort of visualize where the corner is by putting a box collider 2D here, enabling it, and you can now see like how it's gonna look. You can remove it obviously because you don't want that, but yeah. And so now you can see like every single corner is treated. And you can do something with that. Like for example, you can put a proper shadow in there. That would be by taking the shadow. I have actually this one here. I'm gonna make it 1. I'm gonna make it 0, and actually now I have to sort of flip it on the x-axis. Cool. And yeah, so now I have actually a corner, and I can sort of run it, and I can see that every single thing will now have a very tiny corner. So I think I have to make it a little bit bigger. I'll just experiment a little bit. Okay, so it has to be like 0.5, 0.5, and it has to be bigger, and maybe like that, like that. That looks like a good corner. So I'm just gonna copy this transform component, and I'm gonna go to my corner and just paste as you know, all of the values, save it. And then if I play, now I'll have like some very nice corners all around. It's not that visible because the background is a little bit dark, so I'm just gonna improve the darkness of the background by just setting it like that, and boom, that will actually look way better. The only problem is now that the corner is actually in the wrong position, but that's something that we can certainly fix with like a little bit of tweaking. Yeah, so let's take a look at the corner, what's going on here. Okay, so that's, oh, okay, so this should have been pasted here, and then this should actually be just 1 and 0 and 0. That was the problem. Now if I show it, yeah, it actually does work. So all of my corners now have a nice shadow there, right? Now the shadow is getting rendered on top of the tile map, which looks a little bit bad. So for the ground, you probably also want to set this ground to be maybe higher, maybe like even like 1 would be good, and this can be 1 as well. And if you do that, now the shadows are sort of like behind, and it looks way better. And it suddenly is looking way nicer, I think. Now, what is missing is still like the edges are missing. And that will actually be something that we should also do because it just looks way better. So now we have this tile style that will allow us to do that. And it allows you to define a bunch of borders on top of this that will make it way prettier. All right, so I'm gonna create a bunch of corners using sprites. So let's just do a square, for example. It's really not important how it is, but now I'm going to use a border. It's going to be this orange border that I'm going to be using. It actually has to be rendered in front of everything. And now let's scale it just so it works. So it should be probably something like 0.3, 3.2, 3.5, yes, something like that. And this can be like corner, this can be like edge top. And yeah, like then you effectively, we're just gonna flip it like that. And we're gonna put here, then you're gonna put another one. And then here you actually rotate it by 90 degrees, right? Something like that. And then you duplicate that, and then you do minus 90 degrees. And you put it here, okay? So that sort of works. I'm not gonna make it super pretty, but it pretty much works. So we can do like top, then it was bottom, I believe. So it's top, bottom, and then it was right and left. Great. And then you should also have shadows if possible, but I'm just gonna skip those for now. I think it's okay if I skip them, yes. And now if I play, you will see that the borders actually get generated, and that actually gives it a lot of sort of feel that that the Spelunky has, right? So that's how you get those edges. And so now the tiles are sort of composed of these internal thing, which is the shader that's sort of drawing this continuous texture, which is big. And then you have these edges which define where it begins and where it ends, and that's where all of the interesting things actually do happen, and that's how it is. And yeah, that's how you define your edges, and you can do the same thing for the edge tile. So the edge tile, I don't know if we really have something that we can use for it. It doesn't matter which one I choose, but yeah, like I usually call it border. Yeah, I guess I can just use a like this one. I can put it into 2, and then I can color it maybe this color, yeah, or this color. Okay, and let's make it like brighter. Yeah, cool. And then let's duplicate it. So it's top, then it's bottom, but it's flipped. Then it's minus 90, so it's here, and then it's duplicate, and then it's 90, and then it's here. Okay, this one probably should be more down. So then we need a style here as well, and we can do top, bottom, left, and right. Save it. Awesome, we go play, and then you can see that these edge tiles now also have something there, which is awesome. One thing to note is that you really need to think about your layers, because I think that these ones should probably be on top of everything. So I'm gonna put it 5 and let's go play. And yeah, I think that looks better because these should be on top of those. But then these ones are big and they kind of stick out here, which is not that nice. You can solve that in several ways, but I'm just gonna move these into maybe layer 3, like the background thing. And then that will no longer happen and they can extend into it. But obviously this can be solved also by making the edges here smaller, which actually should be probably done. It doesn't look that good how they are, so I'm just gonna sort of squish them in the Y direction, yeah, like that. And yeah, that will probably look a little bit better. Just gonna make it like that, then this can be like here, and then this can be like here, yeah, like something like that, you know. Maybe this can be like a little bit there. Yeah, that looks good. And then you can do play, and then that looks probably more reasonable. Yeah, these orange tiles were never that perfect, but you know, it looks pretty good. Obviously, this is not very good. Like the player should probably be behind everything, which actually we can do quite easily. But it's probably better that you actually move your tiles a little bit forward. So this can be like at level 2. And then this can be at level, you know, the edge tiles could be level 3. Sorry, these ones should be at 3. And then the edge tile itself should probably be 4, and then it's 5, right? So I think that will solve it. Let's see. So yeah, now the player is really behind everything, and yeah, they will not, yes, interact with it, which is awesome. But the player should probably be in front of these flowers. That's how it should be. Yeah, so that was quite a long tutorial. I hope I can cut it up into reasonable chunks, and I hope you can learn from it. That pretty much sums up how it all works. There's obviously more to it, because I also have the camera and this controller, which I don't think you should really use, or you should really fix quite a lot if you want to use it in production. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.